Hi, there we go. Good morning, everybody. My name is Daniel Baum. You may have seen me here before. Peggy asked me to help her out and get us started today. She's unavailable this morning, and I hope to be able to fill her shoes. She does a fantastic job for us, and hopefully I'll be able to do the same. So as we allow everyone to come in and get onto the webinar, just wanted to let everyone know in advance because this is the big question that always comes up. Bill will be sharing his slides today, so that after the webinar, you'll all have the benefit of seeing that for yourself. And we'll also be sharing the recording afterwards. So if you miss something or want to come back to it later, you'll have the benefit of that as well. With that said, I'd like to introduce our sponsors. These webinars are really great educational components, but without our sponsors, they wouldn't be happening. So we'd like to give them a few moments just to tell us a little bit about themselves and their company and introduce themselves to you. So with that, I will call upon our very first person, which would be our Vinteum software, who helps us every webinar and puts these on for us and is really a terrific, really terrific help for us. So with that, I'll turn it over to Laura.
Thank you, Daniel. Hi, everyone. This is Laura. I'm a sales executive here at Vinteum. So we are basically here to talk about, painting, which, are like service requests that a lot of communities would need at some point, and we actually provide a system and a platform that would help you guys organize all of that in just one place, not just the service requests or like maintenance or plumbing or painting requests, but also document storage, which nowadays is mandatory for many condominiums and HOAs within the state of Florida. Our platform also would provide you guys with a system that would help you record your board meetings, upload them to the system, make sure that all this information, documents, and everything is within one platform. So your job as a board member or as a property manager will become a lot easier for sure. Not only that, but if you do partner with us, we would provide training and ongoing support from the moment you decide to, use our platform and our services. So I highly encourage you guys to, contact us if you haven't really decide or go for a system that, allows you to manage your community in an easier way. We would send all of our information through the chat. And yeah, if anything, please contact us and we will definitely help you out with any inquiries you have about our platform. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Yeah, if you don't have your website up and running yet, or you don't have a way to manage your data, definitely reach out to Vinteum and hear what they have to say. They've got a great offering, and they, as you can tell from our webinars, they do a really great job. Next up would be Siobhan Gonzalez from United Professional Engineering. Siobhan is on a job site this morning and unavailable to be with us in person, so I'm going to read her brief intro for everyone. Briefly, United and Professional Engineering is a full-service engineering firm. They've been serving South Florida condos for over 20 years. Their team is licensed, trained, and their expertise is in condominiums. So whether it's from the roof to the garage, they do everything from milestone inspections, phase one, phase two, building research, concrete restoration and repair. If you have any questions at all and want to know more about engineering services or just have questions, Siobhan is a fantastic resource to just ask questions to. Even if she's not helping you at the moment, please feel free to reach out to her and she'll give you a complimentary consult. So that's for United Professional Engineering. Next up, Best Roofing. I see we've got Cameron on the line. Cameron, I'll turn it over to you.
Appreciate it, sir. Happy Friday, everybody. My name is Cameron Andres. I do business development for Best Roofing. We're a commercial roofing contractor that's been in business for 47 years in the Tri-County area. We do all kinds of roofing, so re-roofs, repairs, recoveries, preventative maintenance plans for both flat and sloped roofing. So there's no roofing issues that you could throw at us that we don't know how to handle. We do offer complimentary roof audits also. So if you do want to get somebody on your roof to take a look, give you the cost breakdown of what a re-roof might cost, any deficiencies in the current roofing system that you might need to get repaired, and the life expectancy of your existing roof system. So we're happy to get that started for you. Just let me know if that's of interest and we'll get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Cameron. Next up, I don't know if he's on. Is Ben Friedman from City Quiet on? No? All right. Well, if you're looking for windows and doors, for hurricane-proof windows and doors, take a look at City Quiet. We've had them on many times as sponsor. I know them to be really great people more than anything. You know, you'll be able to get an honest opinion from them. Ben's really great resource. He's been doing this a really long time. So please reach out to City Quiet if you need help with windows and doors. Next up will be Brooke from SW Elevators. Good morning, Brooke.
Good morning. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm Brooke Cavender. I'm the sales manager at Southwest Elevator. We are a family-owned and operated union elevator company. We handle all tri-state counties, so Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and then we're in Naples, Tampa, and Orlando. We do modernization, maintenance, repair, and new construction. So anything you would need in regards to elevators, we'd be happy to help you out. And I will leave my info in the chat box if you have any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brooke. Next up, I will turn to Campbell Property Management. We have a special guest, Beth Rappaport, the VP of Business Development. Beth, are you on with us? Okay, no special guest from Beth today. Maybe another time. We'll get her back. Next up, Bob Aleka, Faster IO. Bob, you with us this morning? I guess I'm doing everyone's intros today. I hope you like to hear me talk. Faster IO. I know they provide internet services. Really great guy, Bob Aleka. Reach out to him or Michael if you want to learn more. We have a new sponsor. I don't see them on at the moment. Richard Gallion from the Pool Scientist. Richard, are you on with us? Also not, but thank you for being a new sponsor. We really appreciate that. Next up, Clarkson and Vanek Elevator Engineering. Damaris, are you on with us?
Thank you so much. Hi,
There
Daniel.
she is.
How are
Yes,
you?
thank
Yes.
you.
One. Hello, everybody. My name is Damaris Cabrera. I'm the Business Development Manager for Clarkson and Varick. We are elevator consultants. We are a nationwide elevator consulting firm. We partner with property managers, with boards, with engineers, with attorneys, with everybody to address everything about elevators. We are 100% consultants. We don't sell parts. We don't touch the equipment. We don't service any equipment. We provide oversight and the expertise and planning and advocacy for the owners, right? From elevator maintenance evaluations to modernizations, design, mid-leveling, evaluating of the life cycle of the equipment, all this information that is so critical when you need to gather or to secure service from an elevator company, and we help to make it level the ground and bring apples to apples, right? So you can make educated decisions as a unit owners. So anything from termination of the contract because it's coming to an end and you want to consider your options with a new company, we can collaborate. Happy to have those conversations. Even if you have a doubt regarding elevators, we're pretty open and we're here to help. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Damaris. It sounds like after you're done speaking to Damaris, you call Brooke to get the work done. All right, next up, PD Concrete, one of our favorite sponsors. And I know Daniel's not with us, but we got Dylan on the line. So good morning, Dylan.
Thank you very much, Daniel. So good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. My name is Dylan Pena. I'm the business developer for PD Concrete Specialist. We've been serving South Florida for well over 20 years now. We specialize in concrete restoration, waterproofing, post-tension cable repair. We also help condominiums with the 40, 50, 60-year recertification process to ensure your property remains compliant and safe. Most importantly, though, we do not use subcontractors. We only use our in-house repair team for all of our work to ensure accountability and quality work for every step of the way. We have 2 offices, with one in Aventura and one in West Palm Beach. I'll be leaving my information in the chat box below. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Yeah, my pleasure. Just a few more minutes, guys, so bear with us. We're going to get started. Just a few more sponsors this morning. The paving lady, do we have Dawn on the line with us? I don't think so. Okay, if you need paving done, call the paving lady. Hafer and Company, do we have Nicole on the line with us? Okay, moving along. We're moving quick this morning. Kaiser, do we have Paulo on the line with us? Keep on rolling. Jamie Gelfand, First Citizens Bank. Okay, she's a bank. If you need money, go to Jamie. Peggy, we all know Peggy, so I don't have to introduce Peggy. If you don't know who Peggy is, I don't know how you got here. And lastly would be myself. My name is Daniel Baum. I am an insurance guy. I do commercial property and casualty insurance for condominiums, HOAs, and multifamily property. My job is to help you understand what insurance is, how coverage works, and most importantly, help you find the least possible expensive solution so that we can keep the largest line item on your budget as low as humanly possible. With that said, let's get going on our webinar today. I'm going to turn it over to Shawnee. Shawnee Haas is the Business Development Manager for Munyan Painting, and she will do the intro for Bill Tayler, our Regional Manager, to take us through our webinar. Shawnee, over to you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. If you hear echo, me and Bill are like right next to each other. So we are Munyan Painting. We have been in business for 75 years, working with HOAs, condos, residential, and commercial properties, looking to beautify properties and protect it and make sure you get the right paint for you. Today we have Bill Tayler, who is our Marketing Director, Regional Manager, and man of many, many talents. I will be moderating today, so if you have any questions, we're going to address all the questions at the end, and you can put them right into the Q&A box. Bill, you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah. Guys, just a little bit more housekeeping just for Bill and Shawnee's benefit. Keep in mind that the chat is really not a conducive way for us to answer your questions. If you have questions, please make sure you put them in the Q&A box. That's where Shawnee and Bill are going to pull from. And again, the questions, I believe, Shawnee, just to reiterate, are we saving them to the end for Bill?
Yes, we're going to do all the questions at the end.
Okay, so put your questions in the Q&A box, but please be patient. As we get to the end, Bill will take all your questions. So thank you very much. Bill, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Shawnee's going to get this PowerPoint up. We're thawing out for a day or two, and it looks like we're getting another cold blast. The north is getting it a lot worse. My family is up in Tennessee right now, and all the food's off the shelves, and essentially the same thing as a hurricane for us. So think about those people if you can in your thoughts and prayers. But this PowerPoint, this class, CU class, is managing the risk of a paint project. And this is a very important class because at one point or another, every property manager, every board member is going to go through a painting project. And this is essentially a project management course for property managers and board members when they have a painting project, okay? This is these because if you're a property manager or board member and you've had a paint project in the past, okay, I can guarantee you're going to say there was problems, there were issues, and it probably didn't end up the way you wanted it to. But this is your Bible. These are your guidelines to have a successful paint project. This is my contact information. The DBPR says I have to provide a bio. I've essentially been in the paint industry since I've been 15 years old. I started working for Sherwin-Williams Company when I was in high school, part-time. And then I went to college at the University of South Florida. They had a tuition payback program. So they paid for a majority of my classes related to construction. And I worked for Sherwin-Williams the entire time I was in college. I graduated from USF with a degree in building construction. I'm not going to tell you what year. And then part of the agreement with Sherwin-Williams was that upon graduation that I worked for them. I worked for them for 20 years in management down in Southwest Florida. And after that, I worked for another manufacturer called Florida Paints. For 11 years, I was their vice president of sales over the state of Florida. And now I'm with Munyan Painting. They were my customers essentially for 20 years, and I got to be very friendly with the ownership, and it just made sense to go to work for them at this point in my career. My mother owned a property management company. I've always sold, I've always been involved with property management for 35 years now. So I'm very familiar with what property managers go through, and I appreciate all what you do, and I try to make their lives easier, and this course is a way to do it. I'm allowed to DPPR allows one mention of our company in the CU class. So we're a 75-year-old painting company and restoration. We're a GC. We're actually the largest, one of the largest in the state of Florida. We have offices. Our headquarters are in Tampa. We have office in West Palm, Orlando, Sarasota, Fort Myers, but we essentially cover the whole state of Florida. Our real expertise is in high rise. So if we have any high-rise managers there, that's what we do. Our expertise is in engineer-driven jobs. So if you're a high-rise and you have an engineer and you're doing milestone repairs, you know, we're a good fit for you. So that's my plug on the company. Enough of that. So course covers. This course is steps for a property manager to ensure you have a successful paint project. Essentially, it's a project management course for property managers and board members. Okay. Like I mentioned before, every property manager board member is going to experience a painting project. And if you follow these steps, if you follow these guidelines, you're going to have success. And missing one step results to all the bad things that happen during a paint project. So our learning objectives, we're going to learn the importance of paint specifications, okay? We're going to understand key factors to ensure a successful paint project. We're going to identify roles and phrases of paint project from beginning to end. So we're going to explain what happens when your buildings are getting painted. We're going to understand paint warranties, okay? Your warranty on a paint job does not come from the contractor, it comes from the manufacturer. So we're going to explain that process. We're going to review common paint problems, and we're going to understand the actual painting process once the project is underway. So first, a little bit about paint. What does paint do? Okay. Paint essentially protects and beautifies your building. Painting is required for condos. It's in their documents for maintenance. Okay, protects your building. Everything's painted. Buildings get painted, homes get painted, boats get painted, cars get painted, bridges get painted, condos get painted, high rises get painted. Everything is painted to protect and beautify. I don't feel as with AI coming taking everybody's jobs, I don't feel as though paint is going away. They tried to do away with paint a number of years ago with different building materials, like Drive It and such, pigmented stucco, but you know that was a short-term experiment. So one of the reasons I got into paint industry, I think it'll always be around. So role of paint is to protect and beautify your building. Okay, so some of my bad experience, and the whole time I've been in the paint industry, I've been in the condo realm. Okay, so I've been involved with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of condo painting projects. Okay, and these are some of the bad experiences that you see on most painting projects. First is overspray. Overspray is when they're applying the paint, they're spraying. Well, what doesn't get on your structure, the paint that does not get on what you're trying to paint goes off in the air. And that overspray, if it's windy, it can go blocks down the road. And overspray, mostly it's cars. Okay. And we see that a lot with high rises when we're painting high rises and the overspray and it's a little windy. It always seems to be windy in downtown areas and that in beach areas, and that spray can go on cars 2, 3 blocks down the road. So that's a big problem we see. Lawsuits is another bad experience I see all the time, especially now. Everyone's very litigious. Most of the lawsuits I see are about construction defect. In other words, the contractor cut corners. Okay, that's a construction defect. So seeing a lot of lawsuits. Everyone wants to sue everybody, and especially in the realms of construction defect. And I can tell you, lawsuits in a construction project, the only people that win are the lawyers. Usually, what it does, it stops the project. It stops your building from being repaired. Your building gets more damaged. And the next thing you know, a year goes by and the board and the contractor, they came as they left and they just have to pay their own legal bills. I've never seldom see a decisive win in a lawsuit, especially when it comes to construction defect, unless it's new construction. Expectations not met. The board is expecting one thing, okay, and they get another thing. The board thought that they were in a paint project, they were going to get all their front doors painted, but it wasn't in the contract. Their expectations weren't met. Okay. Big one, especially in Florida, is underqualified contractors. Okay, a lot of bad experiences from underqualified contractors. Remember, in Florida, uh, there's no painting license. Anybody can paint. Okay, a guy that does landscaping can decide he wants to paint tomorrow, and all he has to do is get a job, buy the equipment, buy the paint, and all of a sudden he's a painter. Okay, so that happens quite a bit. You've seen a lot of painting companies, and most of them, 90% of them, are that way, and they're not qualified. They have no training besides what they've learned on YouTube. And they start off by painting houses, then all of a sudden they get that first condo job and they take it on and they fail and everybody fails. A lot of bad experiences come from the next one, subcontractors. Subcontractors in the painting industry and are very prevalent. What that means is you hire company A, okay, to do your painting project. And company A, they're great. They're a big company. They look solid. You check them out. But lo and behold, when your paint project starts, your company A you hired has hired company B to do the job and subcontract for them. And at that point, you're not dealing with the big companies, workers' comp or general liability insurance. You're dealing with the subcontractors' liability and general liability insurance, which if something goes wrong, you're essentially suing a subcontractor who probably is underinsured or doesn't have insurance or doesn't have workman's comp or general liability. You're not suing the big guy that you hired. So, biggest takeaway for managers is when they have a paint project, the first question to ask your contractor is, do you use subcontractors? Can you provide payroll? They have to provide their payroll to you. That's very important. Next bad experience is your contractor takes on a job too large. Happens all the time. And every small guy, every small painter, they just want their big break. Okay. My company itself, 75 years ago was a house painter, and it all started some 70 years ago with the first big job they got, and it rolled from there. But you do not want, as a property manager or HOA board member, you don't want a contractor to where your job is their first big job. Okay, cause a lot of issues. Unlicensed contractors, now isn't such a big problem with properties that are managed by professional management companies. One thing the state of Florida does very well is if you have a property manager, they do a very good job of vetting the contractors that they use. Okay, your property manager is already insured that they're properly insured. You have workman's comp, they're licensed. So Unlicensed contractor is more of a residential thing, like a homeowner thing, but pretty much from everything I've seen over the years, if you have a property that's managed by a property manager, you can be assured that the contractor is qualified to do the job. Uninsured or underinsured contractor happens all the time. Um, uh, and this falls back on subcontractors. Most of the times, you think you're hiring company A to subcontract to company B, you're dealing with their insurance if there's an issue, and they could have insurance. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Okay. Um, big one happens all the time. Your contractor runs out of money. Okay. Um, Contractor gets a big job, it's a lot of money to mobilize these condo projects. Okay, you have to buy the paint. Okay, you have to mobilize it. You have to get your boom lifts there. You have to get all your equipment there. So you're spending. Okay, and it may be a month before you get your first draw. Okay, so contractors are usually for the smaller guys, your contractors, the money you're paying them today for your job is paying off the last job they did. So one recommendation I have to property managers is hire a larger contractor. Make sure they're a big company. Ask to look at their financials. Okay, if they're a big company and they're not afraid to do that, they'll show you their D&B report. They'll show you their financials. Okay, they should be able to do that without hesitation. If they don't, I'd be wary. Contractor cuts corners. Watch out for that low bidder, please. That low bidder, okay, from my experience, is going to cut corners. I mean, if you have 4 or 5 bids for a project and one is significantly low, the problem is, we're all on boards here. The board members focus on that low bid. Okay. And they don't look at what they're doing. They don't look at their preparation. They don't look at their specs. They just want that low bid. And when a contractor gets that low bid, he's depending on 2 things: to cut corners and change orders. So, just like, government procurement, that's why they usually kick out the lowest bidder. I wish that happened in the condo world. I wish the low bidder would get removed. So with all these bad experiences, okay, I'm going to give you the key how to prevent these from happening. First step to prevent this from happening is a specification. A specification. Before you start a paint project, a roofing project, a restoration project, you have to have a specification. Okay. What your specification is, it's your bid document and your instructions for painting the building. Give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, we were invited by a community to bid a condo project in Tampa. And they didn't have any specifications. Okay. So we went out to the property and we didn't know what they want painted. We didn't know what they didn't want painted. We didn't know what they want included. We didn't know what they wanted excluded. We didn't know how many buildings there were. We didn't know if they wanted the clubhouse building painted. We didn't know if they wanted the perimeter wall painted. So we bid everything to be painted. So about a month goes by and the property manager calls and says, your bid was way too high. And I'm looking at it, estimator looks at it and says, well, we don't think so. We think it was a very competitive bid. We don't see how it could be very high. So we start to look into it and the property manager's going, well, we didn't want the perimeter wall painted. We didn't want the amenity center painted. We just want the buildings painted. And we had all in our bid. How are we to know? Okay, because there was no specification. Okay, if you don't have that specification and you have contractors bidding your job, the bids are going to be all over the place and they're not going to be specifically what your board wants. So what does a spec do? It defines your scope of work. Okay, a spec tells the contractor how many buildings there are out there. The substrates, you got stucco, you got wood, you got metal doors, you got concrete decks. Okay, that's telling me as a contractor how many buildings you want painted and what you want painted. Your spec also outlines the surface preparation. Okay, it tells us, contractor, how to apply the paint. Points out your spec points out areas of concern. Okay, your north walls have cracks and stucco issues. Your spec points all that out. Okay, most important thing your specification does. Okay, it sets the expectations for your board of exactly what they want done, and it simplifies your bidding process. Okay. One other thing, if you have a paint project, okay, and if you don't have a specification written, you don't have a warranty. Okay. The manufacturer, whether it be Sherwin-Williams, Ben Moore, Florida Paints, whoever writes that paint specification, your warranty is with the paint manufacturer. And if they have not written a specification for your property and the painter gets it, paints the job, and there's an issue a year down the line, you don't have a warranty because you can go and say, oh, we use Sherwin-Williams paint contractor is out of business. Don't worry, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They'll take care of us. Sherwin-Williams will come back and say, you didn't have a spec written. We didn't tell the painter how we wanted the paint applied. So sorry, you don't have a warranty. It's just as if you bought a car as is. So specification components. What isn't a specification? First of all, well, who writes your specification? The paint manufacturers write your specification. Whatever paint manufacturer you choose, Sherwin-Williams, Ben Moore, Florida Paints, Behr. Okay, the manufacturer is going to write the specifications for the board. Okay, so what's in a specification? It's general information about the project. Okay. Um, the specification tells the bidders what the board wants painted and what they don't want painted. Okay, the specification will tell me, hey, this board, they want their stucco painted, their wood painted, but they don't want their doors painted. The handyman does that. They don't want their railings painted. They got someone else that does that, but they do want their clubhouse painted. So it specifically tells me as a contractor, okay, what your board wants done. Your spec has your mock-up information. That's essentially your color information, making sure the colors are right before you start the project, okay? Because many times, and I'm sure some of the property managers out there have had a paint project and the painter starts the project and the first thing everyone says is, hey, that's not the color, okay? Well, your mock-up will take care of that. Your mock-up is a component of your specifications. Your specification also calls out the paint, what kind of paint the board wants, okay? Identifies what products, okay, that they want put on the project. And like I say, your specifications can be written by the paint manufacturer, a lot of cases an engineer, okay? It all depends on your particular building. And your specification also outlines the application uh, um, of the paint, okay? Preparation and application of the paint coatings. Here's a specification. Here's what they look like, okay? Cover page. I like this one because the project is very specific. Tells the project, Hampton Village at River Ridge, tells you how many buildings, how many units, okay? How many addresses. Recently, it may not seem important, but recently we got a spec to bid a project and they did not have this information. And the project consisted of six 8-story buildings. So we went out and bid the project. And again, the property manager about a month later said, you guys are very high. And we looked at it and the estimator looked at it and property manager's like, I don't understand. Like we have a spec, but still bids are all over the place and they seem high compared to last time. So come to find out that only 5 of the 6 buildings were getting painted. So everybody bid it for all the 6 biddings, all the 6 buildings. So bid essentially was $200,000 higher than they anticipated. So that's why the addresses are important in your spec and the units and the building numbers. Prepared for who your property manager is and prepared by. This one was prepared by Chris Kruger with Sherwin-Williams. So like I mentioned before, your paint manufacturer writes the specs. You can have an engineer write your specs. You can have a consultant write your specs, but you need the specs. This is the first page of every spec. This is a short letter from the person who actually did the spec. whether it would be a Sherwin-Williams manufacturer's rep or a engineer or a consultant. And essentially what it is, it's his observations from the site visit and the condition of the current coatings. Like, hey man, I went out on this date. I saw your buildings and I noticed chalk, I noticed cracks. I noticed that you need caulk around your window perimeters. And I also noticed, you have some mildew. And this is what I'm going to recommend. So that's essentially what this letter does. Next part of the specification, okay, is your scope of work. Very important, okay? This page communicates what the board wants, okay? This tells me when I go out to bid your job as well as all the bidders exactly what you want done, okay? In this particular case, they want their stucco painted, their ceilings painted, soffits painted, fascia painting, and so on. And they have screen enclosures and they want an option price for those because they don't know if they're going to do them or not. And they know they have, in this one, they have an option for stucco repair, okay, because they know they have some stucco repair. So they want an option for that. This also tells me that the board does not want the exclusions. It doesn't want their floors painted, doesn't want their window frames painted, doesn't want light fixtures painted. So I know exactly what to bid and I know exactly not what to bid. So your property manager is going to get your bids back. They're going to be apples to apples because everyone's bidding the same thing. Very important note in this one says this specification is prepared for building being the same color. In other words, the building is not going to change colors. That is very important because when you put your building out to bid, the assumption is it's going to stay the same color. So everyone's bidding it that way, okay? If you're changing the color of your building, it's going to be more expensive. So if you hire me, okay, and that note's not in there, and I bid it to paint your building the same color, and then I get there on the job and you're telling me these are the different colors we want our building, you're going to get a change order right off the bat, and you're going to be mad at me, and I'm going to be upset with you because if you change colors, it's about 20% more expensive. You have to use a different type of primer and you have to do a full second coat. Okay, a standard paint job is one coat of a clear sealer and one coat of paint. Now you're using a different type of primer and then you're using two coats of finish paint. So that's a very important note in there that you're changing colors. Next part of the specification, that's your instructions. That's the manufacturer's instructions of how they want the paint applied. And essentially, it's best practices, okay? And the manufacturer is given the warranty, right? So this is how they'd like the surfaces prepped, okay? Mostly in this section, you'll find, stucco needs to be pressure washed at 2,500 PSI with a 10-to-1 bleach solution. We want all the hairline cracks to be routed out and patched. That we want the metal doors to be scuff sand, wiped with denatured alcohol. This is the manufacturer telling the contractor how they want the items being painted, how they wanted them prepared. You don't have this if you don't have specifications and you don't have this, the painter's going to do whatever he wants to do. He's not going to follow the best practices to apply the paint. And this right here, this part of the specification is the material schedule. It's basically going through every substrate or every surface that the community wants painted, and it's giving the instructions, and it's also telling the contractor exactly what products, okay, they want put on their building. So in this particular case, all the stucco surfaces of this condo, they want, before it's painted, they want them pressure washed, okay? They want any loose paint bubbled fast, and they're calling for a clear sealer, and they're telling you they want it at 200 to 300 square feet, and they're telling you they want a particular high-end top coat, and they're telling you the 4 mils there says, this is how thick we want you to apply it, okay? One thing I don't like about this spec is it's not telling the contractor how to apply it, okay? Paint on stucco should always be sprayed and back rolled, okay? if your building's getting painted and you just see one person spraying paint, okay, that's incorrect. You should always see two people, two employees painting stucco. First one is spraying the paint, and the second one is coming behind him and back rolling it in. You need to back roll that paint, and that's the only way you get in all the cracks and crevices of the stucco. Okay. So that's the only particular thing I don't like about this spec. It's not telling me how they want that paint applied. If it's not, since it's not telling me that, I can apply the paint anytime I want. I can just spray it as quick as I can and get out of there. Okay. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. This is a warranty. A warranty is in every single specification. Like I mentioned before, if you have a paint project and you hire a painter and he did not do it to his specification, if a manufacturer didn't write a specification, you don't have a warranty. You just bought an as-is paint job. The reason the manufacturer holds the warranty and not the contractor is because painters come and go. Okay. Big companies don't go anywhere. Okay. So that's why the manufacturers hold the warranty. Your warranty is with the manufacturer, not with the contractor. Okay. So you hire me, Joe is painting, to paint your condo, and I paint it, and next year there's some issues with the paint job, and I'm not a painter anymore. I own a lawn service, and you call me and say, hey, that painting company went bankrupt, sorry. And you're thinking, no problem. I know it was Sherwin-Williams, and I go back to Sherwin-Williams, a multi-billion-dollar company. They'll help me out. Sherwin-Williams is going to say, we didn't write a specification. You don't have a warranty. We didn't tell that painter how to apply the paint. We didn't tell them the surface prep. We didn't tell them what products we wanted on it. We didn't issue a warranty. So you just bought a as-is paint job. So knowing when it's time to paint, okay? When's it time to paint your building? Problem in Florida is all the condos don't have money. They keep kicking the can down the road. Okay. You should paint your building every 7 years. That's what manufacturers recommend. But I go on jobs today, they haven't been painted for 8, 9, 10, 15 years. Why? Okay. Because the condos, they don't have the money. They don't have the reserve. So then what happens? Okay. So you haven't painted in 15 years. Guess what? You don't have a painting project. Now you have a restoration project. Okay. Because you weren't protecting your building, you weren't diligent about maintaining your building, and you went manufacturers, it's recommended every 7 years to paint your building. Well, you went 12. Now you have all these cracks, water's gotten the cracks, delaminated to stucco. Now you have to do all these stucco repairs, and then it got structural because you have concrete damage. Now you need an engineer. Now your simple little paint job is turned into a restoration project. That's due to condo boards kicking the can down the street. 7 years is what manufacturers are recommending now. Be cautious if a manufacturer says, this paint will last 15 years on a building. All that means is the paint will stick to the building for 15 years. Doesn't mean it's going to look pretty, doesn't mean it's going to blister, doesn't mean it's going to peel. That just means that the paint's going to stick to the building for 15 years. Doesn't mean that your sealants are going to last that long. They won't. The sealants on your building are only going to last for 7 years, and it's time to replace them. Your time to replace them is during the paint project. So knowing when the time to paint, best guideline is 7 years. Second best way to know it's time to paint, if your building is chalky, okay? If you rub your hand on the stucco and look at your hand and there's chalk on your hand, it's time to paint your building. That means your paint has failed. Your paint is no longer protecting your building if it's chalking. Okay, those are your two rule of thumbs. Common paint problems we see other day, chalking. I just talked about chalking is when you haven't painted your building and you waited too long and your paint's failing. That chalk on your hand right there that you see in that picture is failed paint. Your paint's no longer protecting the building. Cracking. That's where all your damage comes from. That little old hairline crack, water keeps getting in, then all of a sudden, instead of patching a crack, you have a stucco repair, delaminates the stucco, it rusts the fasteners in the lath, it destroys the vapor barrier if you had wood sheathing. destroys that. So a little crack causes a lot of damage. You know, a little crack like that you see, and then you notice it gets bigger and it gets bigger. Then all the stucco is delaminated and it ruins the whole system. Okay, so you're not taking care of those hairline cracks every 7 years in the paint job. So now you got a stucco project. So now you got to get an engineer, and then you got to get drawings, and then you got to cut out huge sections of your building, and you got to take out the lath, and you got to take out the vapor barrier, got to take out the sheathing, you got to put in new sheathing, you got to put in new vapor barrier, you got to put in new lath, you got to re-stucco, prime, and paint. Okay, could have been solved by patching these cracks every 7 years. Peeling, we see it all the time. Mildew, blistering. You know, you see these all the time on these buildings. Okay, these problems you see, okay, are not caused by failing paint. Okay, mostly caused by human error. Kicking the can down the road on paint jobs, number one, and issues during the application of the coatings. Most common causes of paint failure. I'm gonna sum this slide up real quick. Most common causes of paint failure are humans. Okay. I've worked on a manufacturing side for 25 years. I've been in these labs. People making the paint, the people manufacturing the paint are Ivy League chemists. They're the smartest of the smart. And when they make a batch of paint, it is tested, it is tested, and it is tested. It's batch retained and it's tested before it leaves and before it goes into the paint stores. Okay. When paint leaves the factory, it's perfect. Humans mess it up. Okay. Humans mess it up by improperly preparing surfaces. They mess it up by applying it wrong. They mess it up by using the wrong product on the wrong surface. It's human error that causes all paint products because the PDCA here says less than 3% of paint failure is due to manufacturer's defect or bad paint. Okay, doesn't happen. It's less than that. I would say it's more like 0.3%. Now you have to remember, if you have a condo and you have a paint warranty, okay, with a manufacturer, okay, none of this is covered. Okay. Sherwin-Williams and a paint warranty is not going to cover any of these issues. Okay. Because if you go to Sherwin-Williams and say, hey, my building's blistering, we have a warranty, Sherwin-Williams is going to come back and say, well, the paint you bought was perfect. Here's the proof. Here's the lab result. Here's a little bit of the actual paint that's on your building. We have a retain in the lab. Your paint's perfect. Hey, we'll send it off to a third party. They'll check it. They send it off to a third party. Third party says nothing wrong with the paint. So when the paint left our factory, it was perfect. It was human error. The paint was applied wrong. That's the biggest misconception about warranties right there. People think, you know, we use Sherwin-Williams, we have this great warranty. It's 12 years. We're protected for 12 years. Don't worry about that cracking. Go and call Sherwin-Williams. It's not under warranty, you know, so that's the biggest misconception. All these failures are caused by condo boards kicking the can down the road, extending the life of paint jobs, and contractors. Contractors cause all these issues, not the paint itself. These are more common causes of paint failure, but and you've all seen them. You can go through them, but I want you to take away is I want you to know this paint failure is caused by human error, applicators, the contractor. Paint issues or paint failures are because of the contractor and because of condos boards kicking the can down the road, extending the life of paint jobs. So, okay. Now we're getting to your paint project. Okay, here's the biggest takeaway that I want you guys to have. I want you guys to print this section out and I want you to keep it on your desk. The next time you have a painting project, okay, I want you to follow these steps and you'll have success. Okay. I know a lot of property managers. I've been in property management for 35 years. I'm a board member on CAI here in the Tampa Bay area. My mom owned a property management company. I have seen more property management companies get fired because of paint projects. That's the reason. That's one of the biggest reasons I've seen personally. follow this process. You have a board, they want to paint, make sure you have a specification for first thing out of the gate. Ask your board, what do you want painted? What do you don't want painted? You get all that information to your engineer, your consultant, your paint manufacturer, right? And they write the specification. That specification is your starting point. Okay. I'm gonna go all through these a little. I jumped the gun a little bit. That's where we are right now. First step is your specification stage. Okay. Um, when the specification is written, okay, the manufacturer, the consultant, the engineer, whoever you have write your specification is going to go out to the building. They're going to look at all the areas of concern. They're going to recommend a paint system. If you have stucco issues, if you have restoration issues, you're not talking to a paint manufacturer to do this. You're talking to an engineer. Okay. Paint manufacturer can't specify stucco repairs. Okay. They can only specify remedial repairs like crack and carpentry. Okay. And your person here who's writing your specification, he's going to take the information. He's going to take all the information from the board, the buildings they want painted, the surfaces they want painted, everything that they want painted, and then he's going to give his recommendations of how he wants it painted. That's your bid document. You got a bid document. So first thing you do, your property manager, you have your spec written. Only thing you have to do is send it out to your bidders. This is my bid document. Okay. Right after your specified color selections. Now, why is color selection so early in the process? Because what delays projects the most is your color selections. And I can tell you, color selections require most condos 65-75% vote. They seldom get it. We end up every time I see a condo, they want to change colors. I'm like, well, I hope you don't feel too strongly about this because most likely it's going to be the same colors it is now. My recommendation is if you have a board and they want to choose colors, do not have a painting committee with the board member who is a retired decorator. She's just going to mess everything up. Okay. Consult with professionals. Okay. Spend a couple $1,000s, get a designer. Okay. All the manufacturers, okay, have color services. They all do renderings. They are all trained to help a board through this process to speed it up. We have contracts we signed 2 years ago, and we haven't painted them yet because board's still fussing about colors. And I bet you the building's going to be the same color as it was. I bet you they're not going to change colors. So board wants to change colors, consult with professionals. Spend a couple $1,000s for a decorator, consult with the manufacturers if you don't want to spend the money. After that, bidding, most important part. So most property management companies have contractors that they use, and they've been qualified, and they've done good work for them. Good news for board members is if a paint contractor does a bad job with a management company, good chance that they're not going to do a second job with that same management company. So when you go out to bid, okay, you got your pool of contractors. Okay. I always say no more than four. Okay. You have four qualified contractors. Okay. When you're bidding out your paint job, biggest thing is if you have stucco repairs, if you have carpentry, do not hire a paint contractor, hire a general contractor. Okay. Make sure they are general contractors, because if you have some stucco issues and you bid the job, okay, and they're all paint contractors, when they come upon those stucco issues, they're going to stop. And then you're going to have to hire an engineer for those stucco issues to come up with drawings. Then you're going to have to hire a GC to fix those repairs. Okay. Meanwhile, months and months go by. Then when a GC is done with those repairs, then the painter can come back in and finish. My general rule of thumb is if your building has any damage or restoration issues, just have general contractors bid it. Okay. That's my recommendation. Okay. What's worse than that is the paint contractor that tries to do a stucco repair unpermitted. Okay. So if you're bidding out this job and you know there's stucco issues and you just have paint contractors bidding it, they come across stucco issues, hopefully they'll stop and do the right thing and get the engineering and then have you guys hire a general contractor. Most of them try to do it their own and not pull permits, and they're doing it properly. They're doing it unpermitted. And guess what? If the municipality comes by, and they're coming by all the time, and they find out that he's doing that work unpermitted, the violation is on the HOA, not on the contractor. Okay. So I've seen many board members that had to appear in front of a magistrate before. I always recommend a pre-bid conference. Okay, what that is you get all the people you want to bid the job, the four contractors together, and you meet on site. Okay. And you walk around with the property manager, a board member, and the person who wrote the specs, just to make sure everyone understands the specs. Make sure everything's apples to apples. Okay. The last thing I remember when you're bidding, trying to choose a contractor, is interview the contractors. Okay. In other words, at this point, your bids are in, you got all your bids, you're looking to bids, you got to narrow down to 2 or 3 guys, call them in, interview them, ask them questions. You know, we have signed recently, I signed a $600,000 contract on some towers in South Florida. And I kept on going to the manager. They don't want to meet us. Well, they heard about you for years and years and years, and they know you did this building, this building. And I go, yeah, but they might not like me. You know, they might not feel good about me. I'd just feel better if we met, you know, and they didn't want to meet. They didn't want to meet. It was actually a $750,000 contract. The first time I met the board was the first day on the job. It shouldn't be that. You should get to know your contractor. You should get to know who you're working with, and you'll feel comfortable right away. When you are interviewing those contractors, you will know in the first couple seconds, this guy had a great proposal. He's the guy I thought I was going to hire, but I don't like him. You know, let's move on here. I'm falling a little bit behind. So you hired your contractor. I always recommend a pre-construction meeting. Very important. I recommended that be in the form of a board meeting. Get the community in there, bring the contractor in, explain the process, explain what's going to happen. I went to one just the other night, board meeting. We're about to start a painting project at a board meeting. I told them the process. I told them where we're starting, where we're finishing, where our porta potties are going to be, where we're going to park, what the homeowner needs to do. Hey, we're painting your lanais. Everything has to come outside. We're painting your garage doors. Hey, your cars have to be parked here on this day. During that meeting, we're like, here's how we're going to let you know. We're going to put these little door hangers on your door. It's going to tell you when we're going to be there. Our phone number is going to be on there. You can call us because you won't want to have this meeting. You don't want to have a condo and the painters are showing up on the first day and just start pressure washing and painting. And the people didn't know that they were coming. They didn't know they had to take all their stuff out of the lanai. They didn't know all their windows were going to be covered with plastic and they couldn't see for a couple days. Very important. Okay, now we're getting to the painting stage. Okay. This is when your building is actually going to get painted. Very important. This is what you want to make sure is going on. So when you paint your building, okay, hired your contractor, you had your pre-construction meeting, okay, building's getting ready to paint, the first thing is pressure washing. Okay. When they're pressure washing managers, make sure you smell bleach. Okay, you want to smell bleach. Okay, make sure they're using enough pressure. Okay, pressure washing is the very first step. The very first step in a painting project. Next step is discovery. What's that? So after we pressure washed, we found some issues. Okay, we found a little carpentry. We found a little stucco repairs, and most of that stuff comes out after you pressure wash. Okay, so after you pressure wash, you're going to go around and look for the repairs. Okay, what happens a lot is painters pressure wash and then they paint all over these repairs. They paint right over them. Okay, can't do that. Okay, so pressure wash and then discovery. Okay, you want to see either blue tape or you want to see some paint around anything like this after your painter's pressure wash. Okay, it's what has to be fixed. And if this is not in your bid proposal, okay, this is where the painter stops. Okay, painter stops and goes to property manager. Hey, when we're pressure washing, this is what we found. You do have some of this covered in your base bid or you don't. Okay, but we need board approval to proceed. Okay. Next is surface preparation. Okay. You want to see plastic on your windows. If you're a property manager and you have a building being painted, okay, you want to see everything that's not getting painted covered in plastic. You want to see carriage lights covered in plastic, door hardware covered in plastic, windows covered in plastic. Everything that's not getting painted, you want to see wrapped in plastic. Stucco repairs, okay? Now at this point, this is where you're going to your stucco repairs and your carpentry, okay? This is a point right here. A paint contractor cannot do this repair. Okay, so if you know that you have stucco damage, okay, beforehand, okay, hire a general contractor as your bidders. A regular paint, you see a paint contractor doing this repair, they can't do it. This is stucco over wood frame. It requires engineering, it requires permits. See it too many times. A painter just does this repair, they do it improperly, and then after a year or so, it pops. And you also want to do your carpentry at this point. Now your stucco repairs are done, your wood repairs are done. Now this is your priming, your sealing. You want to see this primer. You want to see it goes on milky white like that and it dries clear. Very important. This is your primer coat. Okay. You want to see it rolled on. A lot of guys try to spray it. It's not a good product to spray. You want to see it just like this. Goes on milky white and it dries clear. Then after you prime, you do your caulking. Okay, very important. You prime before you caulk. Why? Because the caulk needs something to stick to. Okay. Here, you want to make sure that contractors are removing bad caulk and not caulking over it. That's a shortcut. If you have bad caulk and your contractor caulks over it, that's a shortcut. Very prevalent. If you have bad caulk on a building, your property manager, and there's bad caulk, make sure they're taking the old caulk out. Okay. Very important. After the caulk is your crack patch. Okay, you have hairline cracks. Okay, this is where you're going to patch all your cracks. Okay, route them out and put in an elastomeric patch. We primed first, right? We didn't prime second. We primed the building first. Then we did our caulking, then our crack patch. Very important that the building's primed first. Why? So the patch has something to stick to. Final coat is your finish coat. On stucco, if you're a property manager and you have painters painting stucco, you don't want to see them just spraying. You don't want to, it has to be back rolled. Just like in this picture right here, you have, if you can look in the background, you can see a spray wand, and then the painter in the foreground is rolling. So the person in the background is spraying, and the person behind him is rolling, spray and back roll. There is going to be a issue if paint is not back rolled. Okay. Paint inspection matters. I'm running kind of long. So when you have a warranty paint job, your paint rep, Sherwin-Williams, wherever you hire, is going to come out and inspect the paint if it's a warranty job. I go through this. I want to talk about real quickly because it's important. Paint warranties. Your paint warranties are with the manufacturer. Okay. Paint warranties for a manufacturer are worthless. I'm telling you, they're worthless. They are a sales tool for the manufacturers, and they only cover product defect. And you know from the previous slides that blistering, chalking, bubbling, none of those are caused by the paint itself. Paint warranties cover nothing. And board members get fixated on Sherwin-Williams is going to give us a 15-year warranty on this paint project. It is a sales tool. And I always go to the board members, did you read the warranty? And they always say no. And I said, once you put that warranty into ChatGPT, okay, and ask how it protects you, and 3 words will come out. It will say, this is a product defect warranty. They are a sales tool for the manufacturers, okay? They don't cover all the issues you see. So if you have a paint manufacturer come out and say, we have a 15-year paint system, we'll give you a 15-year warranty. All that why do they do that? Because they know that the paint is never going to fail, because they know that when it left the factory, it's perfect. The manufacturers know that any issues you have are caused by human error. Okay, so it's on your contractor. One of the biggest takeaways I want you guys to have is when you're hiring a paint contractor and you ask that paint contractor, what's the warranty? The paint contractor is always going to go, well, Sherwin-Williams is going to give us a 15-year warranty. As a property manager, board member, you need to say, no, what's your warranty? As a contractor, what's your warranty? Make your contractor provide a workmanship warranty. If they are pressed and if they want the job, they will do it. Then what you will have is a worthless paint manufacturer warranty, but a real warranty with the contractor. Okay. That's very important. That's one of the biggest takeaways I want you guys to know. I just went through all this stuff. Where am I at? Okay, 52 minutes. So here's a summary. If you do anything, print out this last page, keep it on your desk. Okay. My mom used to keep this page on her desk. Okay. Takeaways. Here's your Bible. If you follow these 6 steps, you're going to have a good paint project. Okay. Make sure you have specifications written. Okay. If I was a property manager, I had 13 properties. Next week, I'd have specifications written on all 13 of them, even if they're 2, 3 years away from painting, because that night when the board goes at the meeting, hey, we want to paint, you already have your specs written. Okay. Have a pre-bid conference. Okay. Have a pre-bid conference with the contractors who you are considering. Interview those bidders. Narrow it down to the two contractors you want to hire, bring them in and interview them. Biggest thing, number 4, if your building has issues, hire a general contractor, not a paint contractor. This has caused so many issues. This has caused delayed so many projects and got so many communities in trouble when they hire a paint contractor and they have stucco issues or they have concrete issues. And that paint contractor who is unlicensed tries to do it themselves without permits, or you have to stop the project. You have to have engineered drawings. You have to hire a general contractor. General contractor has to file for permits, has to be signed off, then they're done, then the painter comes back in. Okay. I know this is very hard to explain to boards, but try to convince them to get rid of the lowest bidder. Okay. They're going to cut corners. All these paint companies essentially have the same overhead. They're basically paying the same paint price for paint. They're basically paying the same work comps rates. They're generally paying the same general liability rates. All their variables, all their overheads the same. So if you have a really low bidder, something's wrong. Okay. A, they miss something, or B, they're going to cut corners. And the biggest thing is no subcontractors. Okay. When you before you start a job, ask the painter. Okay, ask the painter. Say, hey, you're starting this job. I want to know the name of the painters that are going to be on this job, and I want to see your payroll roster. So that's what I got. And Shawnee, what do we have for questions?
All right, we're going to open it up for the questions now. So someone asks, what about big water bubbles in paint on a concrete surface?
Okay, that's when I go to move when I speak, yeah, hit your mute. I'm sorry, we're sitting next to each other, so we just had a in-school training. So bubbles are common. That means water got behind your paint. Okay, that means you have a building issue. That's not a paint issue, that's a building issue. So you have to find out where that water is coming from and fix that area. Most likely concrete in Florida, it's coming from a crack. So if you have a bubble, look above it, you probably have a crack. And I've seen communities that they keep fixing the bubble and the bubble keeps coming back. And you talk to the property manager saying, hey, I've had this bubble for 10 years now. And I go, what about that crack? So fix that crack and you won't have the bubble issue. But guess what? If you have bubbles on your building and you call Sherwin-Williams and say, hey, this is a warranty claim, they'll say, no, it's not. It's an issue with your building. Your paint's perfect. Next.
The next one is what?
Is your mute on or off?
It's off. They can hear me.
Okay, thank you.
What license is needed to paint a building subject to SRIS?
A general contractor. So you have to be if you're doing Sears reports or if you're doing a milestone repairs and painting, do not hire a paint contractor. You have to hire a general contractor, and all general contractors paint. Okay.
David says paint contractors tell me they are no longer required to have a license, that it went away during COVID. Can you explain?
That is right. The paint contractors do not have to have a license. That is totally, and that is the scary, scary, scary thing about the paint industry. I can be a lawn guy today, go out of business, and tomorrow I'm a painter. It's very prevalent. They do not have to be licensed. Um, if you're hiring a paint contractor, err to the larger companies. Look, see how big they are. Go by, look at their office. Okay, Google them up, drive by their office. Make sure they have an office. Make sure they're not working out of the trunk of the car. Make sure they're not working at home. Make sure they're legitimate. Drive by their shop. Make sure you see trucks, lettered trucks. That's what you want to see. But that's the problem with paint industry. You don't need a license. Okay.
Paul would like to know, when is waterproofing applied?
Waterproofing is applied in Florida, new construction. Okay. It came out in the building codes a number of years ago. So buildings have to be waterproof during new construction. Problem is, if you're dealing with an older building, a lot of them weren't waterproofed at new construction. Um, Building should be waterproofed when you have water intrusion. That's when it should be waterproofed. And a building does not necessarily have to be waterproofed with paint. A building can be waterproofed with caulk and with sealants, and with roof repairs. So best thing, when does your building need to be waterproofed? When you have water intrusion. Um, I would reach out to a consultant. I would reach out to an engineer for him to identify all the issues. A lot of times, engineers, they'll do the initial walkthrough, unofficial, real quick, to tell you what's wrong and not charge you for it. You want it in a report, they're going to charge you a couple $1,000s. But I would spend the money to get that report. Then you know how to protect your building from water intrusion.
How can you ensure that the contractor prepares the surface properly since you aren't watching them every day?
Sure, great question. That comes back to your specifications. Make sure that you have specifications written so they know what the instructions are. But that goes back to your contractor. Okay. Ask your contractor, okay, what's your supervision? Do you let people run wild? Do you have a foreman? Do you have a supervisor? When you are about to hire a contractor, ask them how they supervise projects. Okay, very, very important. I've seen a lot of projects where, there's a foreman that shows up in the morning, everything's going perfect. He leaves, everything goes to hell. He comes back after lunch, everything goes perfect. He goes out, the supervisor leaves for the day, everything goes to hell again. So ask your contractor how they supervise the jobs, okay?
How do you know if a painter is really qualified if no license in Florida is required?
Another great question. How do you know a painter is qualified? Ask him. Look how long he's been in business. Check his references. Okay. If he can't provide references, that's an issue. Um, Ask him what jobs he's done near you. Okay. Go look at those jobs. Find out who's on the board. Talk to the board of the jobs he's done. Ask him how they did. Board members would be happy to share that information. Consult with your property manager. One thing I found in Florida, it's not easy to get into condo painting business because all these properties are managed by property managers, and a property manager is not going to get burned twice by the same contractor. So if I am a paint contractor and I work for a property management company and I do a terrible job, that property manager is going to talk to all her coworkers and she's going to say, don't hire Bill's Painting, and they won't. Okay. It's very hard to get to start. You see very few new companies start working for managed properties. Okay. Because the first thing, a property manager is going to do is be like, man, I've been using these same contractors for years. They haven't let me down yet. And geez, you're a new company. You've only been around for 2-3 years, and these condos have 7-year warranties. I'd feel better if you were in business for 7 years. Ask the questions, go by their office. That's the big thing, okay, to see if they're qualified. Go Google them, find out where their office or shop is, and drive by it. Oh, they don't have an office. They work out of a storage shed. You Google their address, and it's their house. Okay, that's what you want to be wary of.
So this next person, going back to like how to make sure something is followed through with, do we have to hire a policing agent or a project manager? What is the least expensive or effective option?
So now so that's another great question. These are great questions. Um, a lot of property management companies I've seen are project managing. You pay them a percentage of the contract, and they project manage the project for you. I've seen that growing in the past 2 years. More and more property management companies are doing it, are supervising it. Um, um, the manufacturer will do inspections, but that's really not managing the project. But the thing is, to answer that question, you should hire a contractor that shouldn't have to be supervised, right? You should do your due diligence. You should check their references. Okay. You should sit down and talk to them. You should see how long they've been in business. You should call their reference. You should Google them. Okay. So you shouldn't have to supervise your contractor. You want to make sure they've been in business for years and years and years. Um, um, we've been in business for 73 years. Pardon me, I'm not supposed to mention our company, but company has been in business for 60, 70 years. Okay. They're there in business for 60, 70 years for a reason, and there's plenty of those in everybody's town. Every county, every municipality, there's long-term competent contractors have been there. Be wary of the be wary of the new contractor.
So David says that their management company requires a fee for the cost of the CAM to manage the project, but they're reluctant to do this. Where would they find a qualified independent project manager?
Yeah. They're reluctant to do that because they don't know how to do it. That's why they're reluctant to do it. Because you have a property management firm and you have 13 managers, there's probably only a couple of them that are seasoned enough to go through that. Like I've been in property management for 30 years, and most of my most of my contacts have retired. Most of the managers I've dealt with for years and years are retired. Okay. And what's coming up is 23, 24, 25, 26-year-old property managers that have never been through a project like this. So they know as much as you do. So it's a great question. You can have here's what I would recommend. Every board, every community has a retired contractor. Okay. Um, see if they'll go on a committee to supervise the job. All this goes back to your contractor shouldn't have to be babysat. All this goes back to your contractor should not have to be babysat. Okay. You should hire a competent contractor that manages itself. Okay. It all goes back to that. That's one of the most important takeaways, that you shouldn't have to supervise, you shouldn't have to manage your contractor unless it's an engineer-driven job. Okay, unless you're on you have stucco damage and there's an engineer involved and the engineer wrote plans, and then the engineer's responsibility to make sure those repairs were done correctly. That should be done under an engineer's supervision. Yep.
All right, a bit of a short one here. What permits are needed for painting exteriors of the building?
What permits are needed for painting the exterior of the building? No permits. You don't need any type of permit or any type of license to paint the exterior of a building, which is the problem with the paint industry. Permits are required for any stucco repair, anything structural. Okay, so if you have a paint contractor and you're building a stucco repairs, and he's doing stucco repairs, just know that he's not licensed, he's not insured to do that work, and it's unpermitted.
What aspects of interior painting projects are commonly overlooked that tend to receive more attention during exterior painting?
So how I understand it is essentially, what's the difference between an interior paint job and an exterior paint job? Okay. Surface protection. Biggest biggest caveat about an interior paint job is you want to make sure everything is covered. The flooring should be covered with plastic, with excuse me, construction paper and drop cloths. Okay, and the amount of people. Okay, on an exterior paint project, okay, you're going to have 7, 8, 10 people. You do not want 7, 8, 10 people in the inside of a condo, inside of a home. You want to see small, detailed crews. Our crews that do interior work, that's all they do is interior work. You know, they wear booties. They know how to behave inside someone's house. They don't swear. They protect furniture better. You don't want to put an exterior crew on an interior, and vice versa. But the biggest thing between interior and exterior is the crews, the surface protection, and the amount of contractors actually performing the work.
Someone would like clarification. What is wet, MILL?
Okay, that's
That's a great question. That's a great question. Question is, what is wet mills in your paint specification? Okay. That is the manufacturer telling the contractor how much paint they want on their building. Okay. It's in millage is a measurement. Okay. 4 mils is about right here. That's about 4 mils. So the manufacturer is telling the contractor that's how much paint they want put on the building in order to issue a warranty.
wait, where we got.
I think that might be our last one.
That it?
Hey guys, I'll jump in.
Dominic says he got a general contractor. He had a paint contractor who supervised the job and inspected it. Is this okay?
So let me understand that.
So I believe if I'm understanding this right, the general contractor had a paint contractor and they supervised the job and inspected the building. Is that okay?
Who supervised the building, the paint contractor or the general contractor?
Paint contractor.
No,
Paint contractor cannot work for a general contractor. You cannot sub down. Okay, you can't sub up. You can sub down. A paint contractor cannot tell a general contractor what to do. It's vice versa. A general contractor is a sub, tells a paint contractor to do. Problem there is the person you hired subbing out the job. The person you hired isn't performing the work. He gave it to another company to do the work. You want the same company performing the work, okay? But if I'm a general contractor, I'm doing your job, and there's a paint contractor involved, that paint contractor can't tell me what to do. Okay, that's not the way licenses work. That's not the way processes work. It's they're not qualified to do that. The contractor is qualified to do that. Paint contractor is not qualified to tell a general contractor what to do.
I believe that's all of our questions.
All right, that's it, Daniel.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Bill. Just a reminder to everyone again, since this has come up a few times, and in case you missed it in the beginning, there are no certificates being issued for this course. You do get 1 hour of continuing education credit. Bill will provide that to the state. Please give him a good week or two before you go looking for it. If you don't have it after 2 weeks, you can reach out to Bill and ask him, but please give him a little bit of time because it does take some time for him to upload it, as well as the state to recognize it and give proper credit.
We're going to upload it as soon as we get the list. So it'll be done
Perfect.
as soon
Okay.
as
So that'll happen.
we get
But again, give him a 2-week window just to check your CEU credit before you bombard him with inquiries. Real quick, Peggy asked me to jump in here for 30 seconds. We have a brand new sponsor who wasn't able to make it before the conference started. We just want to give him 2 minutes. Ricardo from Pool Sciences. Ricardo, you with us?
Yes, Daniel, thank you. And hope you guys enjoyed the webinar. Sorry I couldn't be on the start, but my name is Ricardo Galeano. I am a new sponsor At the Pool Scientists, we guide communities in the elevating the quality and reliability of the aquatic operation, really. Little bit about our company. The Pool Scientists, are a research driven pool solutions. We are not a pool service company. We do service, but it's part of our business unit. But we are a pool solutions company that specializes in water chemistry, diagnostic inspection, strategic consulting, new construction and renovations. And one of the things that we really love is about the industry education. So we have in-house certified pool and spa operator instructor and aquatic facility operator. So we love to focus on servicing the property managers, HOAs, condos, and multifamilies. Just to mention our certifications, we have a certified pool and spa contractor. In the previous webinar, just Bill mentioned about the importance of have a contractor. That's what we have. We call a certified pool and spa contractor. We have in the team as well a certified pool and spa inspector for public aquatic facilities or commercial aquatic facilities. Certified watershed real estate inspector for real estate transactions. So we are really excited to present our company to you guys. So we will have our information in the spreadsheet, and Daniel and Peggy will share to you guys. We love to have the opportunity to share with you our passion about the industry and how we can elevate all the topics about pool solutions. And thank you, Daniel.
Perfect. Thank you, Ricardo. We'll look forward to having you on the next one and giving you your time slot at the time. But thank you so much for jumping on at the end and introducing yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, we're come to the end of this particular webinar, but we want to just let you know we have another one coming up on January 29th. That is next week, Thursday from 12 to 2. We have a reserve advisor and attorney panel webinar. That'll be a good one. We'll have some attorneys on there. Definitely something to check out. If you miss that webinar on February 6th, the following Friday, 2 weeks from today, we will have an additional engineering panel and attorneys as well will be on that one. On February 10th, the Tuesday thereafter, First Citizens Bank will be doing a presentation on funding and loans. Definitely want to catch that if your community is looking for dollars to pay for projects this year. On February 13th, we will be having a second construction summit series. This is our new series for 2026, the Construction Summit Series. So we'll have another conference. Keep an eye out for that. February 20th, Altieri Public Adjusters will be hosting, and we'll have a panel on hurricane claims. Really good to sit through that one, especially because as it's the new year, we're only a few months away from hurricane season again. You want to be prepared. And finally, February 27th, Karen's Engineering will be hosting another panel, and we will have some additional attorneys. So lots of really good content by very intelligent and capable individuals in our space. Please keep an eye out for the webinar notices, and please patron our sponsors. That's how Peggy's able to put these together for all of us. So if you have a need, please look at the sponsor sheet, which will go out and you'll get in the email. Give us a call. Let us know if we can help in any way. Last 2 minutes, Julia, is there anything you want to close with?
No, you did it perfectly, Daniel. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
All right. Thank you, guys. Happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend. We look forward to seeing you all next week. Shawnee and Bill, great job. Thank you so much for that info. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Bye, guys.